Kalpowar quarter horses, based in Parker County, Texas at the Comanche Springs Ranch, was brought to life by Larry and Ellen Bell, college sweethearts married almost 44 years, along with their children, Matthew, Brian, and Amy. With family farming and ranching roots dating back to the 1800s, it was only natural for Ellen, Larry, and their kids to continue the family tradition when they established Parks Bell Ranches in 1974. Over the years, Parks Bell Ranches has included ranches in West Texas, northern New Mexico, and Queensland, Australia. In 1994, as part of their Parks Bell ranching operation, the Bells began their own quarter horse breeding program under the name Kalpowar.
When we decided to start this little family partnership, we were trying to come up with a name, and all we wanted, we were just raising ranch geldings, so it didn't really matter what the name was, and we had owned, as a family, we had been partners with some of Ellen's family members in a ranch in Australia, a cattle station, and it was called Kalpowar Station. And Kalpowar, among other interpretations and what have you, there's apparently a wild orchid in that part of the world in North Queensland that's actually called a Kalpowar, and that cattle station was called Kalpowar because of that. We said, well, that sounds like a great name. I had spent a lot of time in Australia. I had looked after managing that property for a while after my father-in-law passed away, and so we just thought, well, that's a great name, and let's just call ourselves Kalpowar Quarter Horses.
At the heart of the Bells horse operation was their youngest child, Amy, whose riding career began in an English saddle.
She started when she was 8 years old. She went to camp, and she started riding English. And she came home and she said, I want to continue doing this. And I went, okay, we don't know how to do English. So I called a good friend of mine, and I asked her, I said, can you help me do this? She said, yes. So Amy started taking lessons. And she wrote English all the way through college. And we hauled all over Texas.
The accomplished young rider later branched out into cutting and reined cow horse, and the Kalpowar breeding program followed her new passion. A strange twist of fate bridged the gap between English and Western. It was Amy's first hunter-jumper pony, a little quarter horse mare called Hobby.
We bought this little mare, and we did not even look at the papers. We just bought her because Amy loved her.
Amy and Hobby showed all over West Texas and New Mexico, and after that first year, Amy needed a new horse. Larry convinced Amy to breed Hobby and look for a finished hunter-jumper. As they got ready to raise a foal, Larry and Ellen finally looked at Hobby's papers. They were shocked to discover she was bred to be a cow horse all the way.
I looked at the papers, her name was Hobby 5. Well, that immediately rung a bell for me because our friend Clarence Scarborough from West Texas, our neighbor out there in Midland, many of his horses were named something 5. And so I looked at it, and Hobby 5 was out of a mare called Cam A5. And I'm going, this is Clarence. But he wasn't shown on the papers, but I knew that was Scarborough bloodlines. Then I looked at the sire of Cam A5, and the sire of Cam A5 was a horse called Silver Wimpy. Well, Mr. Parks, Ellen's grandfather, and Clarence Scarborough had partnered with some stud horses from King Ranch from time to time, and Silver Wimpy was one of them. So it's like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And so we started looking at that, and then the sire of Hobby 5 was Hobby Horse, and Les Vogt was the breeder, and apparently Les had showed her as a 3-year-old at some little cow horse fraternity in California, and then all of a sudden we find out that this is a reined cow horse that Amy's been trying to show as a hunter jumper. So Kalpowar was kind of moving full bore into the reined cow horse business, and we started looking for horses to breed to Hobby 5 that were more toward the reining and cow horse side.
During Amy's college years at Tarleton State University in Stephenville, Texas, Larry was president of the Southwest Reined Cow Horse Association and held a seat on the NRCHA Board of Directors. It was during that time that the NRCHA decided to hold the first World Championship show in Stephenville. Larry played a key role in the event as a member of the show committee, and Kalpowar Quarter Horses was the original named sponsor of that first NRCHA World Show. During the event in Stephenville, the entire Bell family volunteered alongside the Southwest Reined Cowhorse Association to make the show a success. And as Amy's cowhorse involvement grew, she brought her family along with her.
She was a wonderful rider. She was an excellent, she competed at a very high level in the hunter jumper world in the AQHA, and had some training, and certainly at that point in time was becoming an accomplished cutter. We had a nice gelding here at the ranch that was called No Blue a Key. He was a son of Master Roney, out of a wonderful old own daughter of Mr. Sandpeppy that we had bought a few years earlier, and Bozo Rogers was helping train No Blue a Key, and it was during that period of time that Amy started riding him, and ultimately competed in Reno in the non-pro limited and non-pro 5,000, and was reserve in one class and won the class in the other. So she ended up showing at the World Show that next year, actually in San Angelo by then, and just fell in love with the Rein Cowhorse competition. She fell in love with the people. She made some of her best and deepest friends and friendships at that time with the Cowhorse family, and it'd been a significant part of all of our lives at that point in time. But once Amy began to compete in the Cowhorse, it took us really to a whole new level.
When the World's Greatest Horseman and NRCHA Celebration of Champions found a new home in Fort Worth, Texas, it was exactly what the Bell family had hoped for, a chance to showcase reined cowhorses in the heart of the Western performance industry. Kalpowar Quarter Horses became the title sponsor of the World's Greatest Horseman in 2014, coming full circle in their support of an event they had been part of since the beginning.
So to see it kind of grow up, and it's kind of like birthing a child. You've watched it grow, and you've kind of been through the bumps and going down the road. So for me, it was very exciting and very thrilling to be there and be a part of it.
And I think one of the things that meant so much to us is that when we got there and we went to sit down in our seats in our box and what have you, Amy was there, and it was full of her friends, and we knew that the goal that we had as a family of being able to showcase not only to the cutting horse world in general, but to our friends in particular, right here in our own neighborhood, in our own backyard, just had all sort of been a dream come true that it all came together right there in that little box in Fort Worth, Texas.
Good luck.
You're welcome.
Way to go, Amy.
Yeah. Besides the horse industry, the Bell family has a shared passion for travel. In the early years, it was skiing in Colorado and cruises to Alaska. Then the family started hunting and taking photo safari trips to Africa, Europe, and New Zealand. These trips brought the family even closer together as they shared once-in-a-lifetime experiences.
This trip that we've been on in the horse business especially, and eventually as we began to not only be involved as a family in the horse business, but to be involved in as a family and in some incredible trips and travel and what have you that many times has included hunting. We've done as a family, and we've done it together. But at the center of it was Amy.
On May 16, 2014, everything changed when Amy passed away unexpectedly at age 33. The loss was felt all over the world. Amy's zest for life touched her family and friends in the hunting world and in the horse industry. What many people didn't know, Amy was also passionate about helping children in need, both here in the U.S. and more recently in Africa. In recognition of her love of children and Africa, a South African orphanage has been named in her memory. Besides the orphanage, another charitable endeavor, the Amy Bell Center for Children, is being established in South Africa. The center will also include facilities in both Namibia and Zambia.
We know that was at the heart of who Amy Bell really was her love of life and her love of horses and her love of children. And so anything we can do to carry on that legacy is something we're going to make every effort to do, because Amy was making a difference in the world, you know, one little small step at a time, one child at a time, and anything we can do to continue that legacy and support that, we're going to do that. Amy had a very important mantra that she was very, very private about, but her life was all about pass it on. And she wanted to find ways to share her love of life and her love of friends and her love of horses with as many people as she could. And in some way, we find it extremely important to help perpetuate that legacy in Amy's honor, in her memory, and because we just know and believe that she's directing all of this for us.